All right. Okay, go ahead, Kyle. Thanks.
All right, well, thanks for everyone for joining today. While we wait for the health folks to join us, I figured we could at least talk about one of the things that I had on our meeting agenda. That was to kind of circle back on the work that had been done on the Mineral Belt Trail. I know that we had discussed it during our last a work group meeting, and I had a bunch of email communication back and forth with the city, and I just wanted to kind of touch base with the commissioners to see kind of what the status was of that work, or what had happened essentially.
Kyle, I don't think anything happened, and
Okay.
I've been working. Michael at Public Works have been trying to communicate with the mayor on a plan, and I think the last thing really informally that he had communicated to the city was that the easiest thing would be to re-asphalt that.
Yep.
But weathered came in and
Okay.
many other things, so I don't believe anything was done.
Okay, and just so I kind of have an understanding of like your snow situation up there, is that area of the trail currently like covered with snow and ice and stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that at least eliminates the human health risk associated with removing that cap. And so I'll just make it a point to have that on my kind of to-do list to touch base with the city as we get closer to the spring to make sure that that they are going to do something about that
Okay.
cap that was removed.
Okay, that would be pretty helpful to have your you touching base with him, and that a little bit of pressure as well.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it doesn't fall off the radar and it is ultimately dealt with. So yeah, thanks for that update on that. It looks like we're still waiting on the health folks. So we'll just give them a minute or two to hop on. Otherwise, that will kind of proceed forward with the agenda here.
We could talk about the ICs.
Okay,
right?
yeah. So we could talk about the ICs as well. I think during the last work group meeting, we had discussed having a kind of a stakeholder meeting with the planning and development group up in Lake County. And we had kind of started moving forward with having that meeting. And Linda and I had actually been provided some kind of stakeholder input that we hadn't been made aware of.
Finally is on.
All right, I'm so sorry. Oh,
I'm sorry.
No worries.
No worries. So we had been made aware of some stakeholder comments that we hadn't initially been made aware of. And so we kind of wanted to take some time to review that before we move forward with having any of those discussions. So I think Linda and I have had a chance to review those comments, and I think me and her will be working together to kind of get that meeting back on the books and keep that conversation moving forward. Was there anything else that you wanted to kind of add to that, Linda?
Yeah, and Paul Clarkson had added some information about some areas that were maybe proposed for development or zoning changes, and he was inquiring if we could put an institutional control. And so I think Kyle and I need just to talk with him more in depth and get more information on that and see what would be needed, and then come up with a recommendation or proposal. Because if people are building in areas that did have past mining activities, we want to be able to have for the county to have the tools that they need to put the protections in that they need. Or that are needed. And so like one example is it just happened like a month ago. Someone was regrading their property close to town and the dust was going in the air, and then the local residents were complaining about that and were concerned about the health issues related to it with heavy metals. And so Paul contacted Kyle and I, and we don't have an institutional control for that particular area. But it probably would have been helpful to have one. So I think we need to just kind of brainstorm and think some scenarios through, and then make sure whatever ICs are put into place cover those situations if they do, that might come up. So
Okay.
So like Kyle said, we need to do some more thought processes with the building department.
Okay. Another update for you guys. Paul is in retirement now. And
Oh,
he is?
wow.
yeah, Ann Schneider is our interim director at Land Use. So
Okay.
be sure to email her.
Okay.
Well, congrats on Paul. And
Yeah.
yeah, I can't believe that. I'm honestly surprised. But we'll definitely make sure that we work with Ann, moving forward. She's always been super responsive. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that she's kind of still in place there.
Kyle and Linda, will you please be sure to copy me on all of those communications? I think this is something that Chris Floyd, the county attorney, would like to be aware of as well, because it has further implications when you're, putting institutional controls in place that weren't part of the, formal EPA process. So please be sure to keep me in the loop, and then, we'll loop in the commissioners.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
And I don't know, how much we want to talk about this now, but one of the things that Paul did bring up during that most recent kind of correspondence that we had about the grading activities kind of within the city was kind of the fact that our OU9 ICs are very, limited to, where they apply within town, and, potentially thinking about, adding language to, expand the coverage of the OU9 IC. I don't want to get into a huge whole discussion about it now, but I just wanted to kind of, bring that up and start having you guys think about, is that something that community would be interested in? Because right now the OU9 IC is essentially limited to specific waste piles within the city. And so in the instance where we had those grading activities, happen, our hands were tied. There's nothing we could do from a site perspective to, communicate to the homeowner, how they should be doing that work or anything like that. So, like I said, if there's starting to be community interest in, expanding the language in that IC to be a little bit more comprehensive, that's something that we could also kind of, add in that broader IC discussion. I do know, having said all that, that the reason why it's kind of not as broad was due to community input and there being concerns that it could hamper development and stuff like that. So we may not still be at a spot where the broader community wants to look at expanding that language, but I do want to have you guys start at least thinking about it a little bit while we're talking about these other ICs.
Okay.
Moving on from the ICs, I did want to just give a quick update on the 218 East 7th Street property. That project is, I would say, 95% complete. All the construction activities were completed before the weather kind of set in up there. They got all the siding up. They were able to do the roof fixing the roof and kind of all the construction pieces of the project that they had to complete. The one thing that they weren't able to complete was the painting of the new siding. And so that piece hasn't been paid for and will be completed in the spring as soon as weather allows. So if you guys have any questions on that project, I'd be happy to answer them.
Kyle, I ran into the owner several weeks ago. I wondered, is there an issue with the windows or any replacement there? I think she was talking about some coverings.
I have not talked to her on that piece of it, but if there is, I will. I'll just follow up with her and see what issues she was noting, and then I can follow up with the construction company.
Yeah, or maybe my question is, is there any treatment on the windows with all the other work that was done? I don't recall.
So I know that they were building out the kind of window surrounds. So I do know that they did some work within the window area. without having, kind of knowing like what issues she's specifically talking about, I wouldn't be able to kind of speak.
Yeah, I think it was the peeling paint, but I had thought that was, they were maybe getting repainted.
Yeah, so all of that should have been addressed with the new siding. My understanding was they were going to essentially build out the siding around those windows to encapsulate the previous paint.
Okay,
So I'll make sure that I follow up with Blue Sky and the homeowner and make sure that they're both happy with the way that it's done.
okay. Thanks, Kyle.
Yep. All right, so if no one else has any questions on that project, the next thing I had on the agenda was to talk about current blood lead levels and any new clients into the program. So I was going to turn it over to the health department folks.
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our video isn't working, so I'm sorry. I can see your lovely faces, but you can't see mine. We're having power troubles here, so I don't know. Anyways, yeah, so basically just that one blood lead, because I think I've communicated with you guys, and if not, I apologize, but that we haven't had blood lead testing supplies for the last month and a half or so. Just the FDA hasn't allowed anyone to ship out any new. So thankfully we didn't have any recalled. So we were very lucky and thankful for that. But yeah, for this, what was it? 5298. The lady, they were going to move here, but their work, they ended up not. So they're back in Kansas, but I am communicating with her. The last blood lead was a 7, what she was 15 something. So she's definitely coming down. She is trying to get back in to get tested because she is pregnant. And so, I was concerned anyway with that, but more concerned because of that. And we did have family and her daughter and her husband and like cousins that she was living with, just to, for some reason, because a little bit they were living here in Leadville. So we wanted to rule out that was a problem. But it does seem to be that it was the Mexican candy and such. We didn't have anything to do with the Leadville surroundings. So sorry, that was like a lot of things. But basically she is doing well and coming down. And I'm just communicating with her still just to like make sure that it does come down to the normal levels. So that's really it. But we're hopeful they'll be sending those supplies out sometime. There isn't any date in sight at this point, but hopefully, let you guys know when we do start that again.
Okay. Yeah. And Heidi, if you could just like kind of document that somehow. So,
Yeah.
when we're reviewing our statistics, we know that that's why we see that gap in kind of
Right.
testing.
Okay, I'll figure out something to do.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure what your database looks like or what your file system is, but just some sort of note kind of indicating that it was a supply chain issue
Okay.
for that testing.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think honestly we've gone through everything that I had on the agenda to discuss. Was there anything else that the work group wanted to bring up and discuss at this time? All
I don't
right.
have anything.
All right, hearing nothing, we'll be giving back a bunch of your morning. I will go ahead and schedule our next work group meeting. So looking out, where's my calendar? Let's see. Looking into April, I am available on the 6th, if the 6th works for everyone.
It's good for me.
Okay.
Is this April 6th? It looks like we should be available.
All right.
You want to do at 9 also? Kayla might have something at 10.
At 10?
Kayla may have, it looks like she has an appointment at 10.
Okay, so we could either do it later that day or we can move it to the next Wednesday, the 13th, if that works better.
The 13th would probably be better.
Okay,
13th, do you want to do 13th at 9 a.m. again?
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Perfect. I will get that meeting invite sent out as soon as we log off here. If you guys have any, questions that come up after the meeting or, anything like that, feel free to shoot me a quick email and I will get right back to you.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Good to see y'all.
All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Bye.